The following podcast is part of the Underdog Sports Podcast Network. For advertising information or to find more great podcasts, visit us at www.theunderdogsports.com and follow us on Twitter at RealTheUnderdog.
Basketball Society.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Atlantic Files, brought to you by BasketballSocietyOnline.com and the Underdog Sports Podcast Network. As always, you are joined by your host, that is myself, Alex Fishbein, and this marks the very first week that we are on YouTube. Yes, so for all of you who apparently, don't want to just listen to me on your headphones or in your car, you can now also watch me talk to myself. So, we are now on YouTube. We are on the Basketball Society YouTube channel, so make sure you check that out. A lot of good stuff on there as well. We have the Protect Our Queen segment, a segment done by myself and by Martin Sories, and a lot of great content on there as we talk about some of the dopest women in and around the game of basketball. So make sure you check those out. All of that on our YouTube channel as well. So, guys, we got a lot to talk about right now. We have the first round of the playoffs that have, well, for the Eastern side, pretty much done, except the Milwaukee game when Orlando surprisingly took that game one. But we also have coaches getting fired. We have protests going on. We have stuff getting postponed. We have a lot of stuff going down right now. And before we jump into everything, I want to start off talking about the protests and talking about everything going on. Let's just be clear. If you are more upset at the fact that these guys are sitting out of a basketball game rather than what is actually going on and the injustices that are happening, you're just on the wrong side of history right now. And on top of that, I also just want to say, this whole thing, this isn't politics. This isn't, Republican versus Democrat. This isn't, this isn't any of that. It's not some kind of talking point for an election. This is just being a decent human being. Just not being racist. Just treating everybody with respect. That's literally all this comes down to, and it's really not that hard to see and to understand. Nobody's trying to say that one person's better than the other. Nobody's trying to say that one person deserves more than the other. Everyone wants to be equal and treated equal and let their hard work do the talking. In some cases, that's true. In a lot of cases, it's not. And that's just how it is right now. And I'm not sitting here with some written statement or anything like that. All I'm saying is just be decent human beings. Stop being thick-headed. Stop treating other people like they're less than you when they aren't. Because everyone's created equal, you should treat them equal as well. And I stand with the players doing all of these kinds of protests and doing everything. Black lives matter. They have mattered. They do matter. They'll always matter. And when I say that to you, all lives matter believers, we all believe that too. It's just right now, it doesn't seem like Black lives matter as much. So we need to treat them equally and have them up there with all of the other lives mattering. That's what it comes down to. Just don't be a dick. Seriously. That's it. Now that we got that little bit out of the way, And honestly, it shouldn't need to get out of the way. Like, that's going to be a reoccurring theme for a long time until something is done. And just believe that. On the NBA side, on the owner's side, the WNBA side, everybody, this is going to be something that you're going to keep hearing about until something is done. That's just the facts of the matter. So, we'll get to a little bit of basketball here. Now, before I get to kind of recapping the playoff series and stuff like that, I want to talk a little bit about the coaching searches and the news of, the Sixers letting Brett Brown go. There even was the Pacers who fired Nate McMillan. The Nets are rumored to be going for Greg Popovich. There's a lot of stuff happening right now. And I'm just trying to bring up something here. Let me just bring this on up. Let's see. Okay, so the 2020 NBA coaching search. There's going to be a lot of teams looking for one. You have teams like the Pelicans that are also looking for one after Alvin Gentry was fired. You have the Pacers now looking for a head coach. You have the Chicago Bulls after they got rid of Jim Boylan, which happened way too late, by the way. You have the Brooklyn Nets after Jacques Vaughn was just their interim coach after they got rid of Kenny Atkinson. The Knicks completed their head coaching search by getting Thibodeau. Still don't think that's the correct coach to go with in their situation, but hey, you can't make the right decisions all the time. And I know Knicks fans and and the people working with the Knicks know that very, very well. So, out of all of this, there's one domino to fall, by the way. Mike D'Antoni, last offseason, they were unable to reach an agreement on a contract extension. The owner and the GM of the Rockets have both talked about really wanting to work things out with D'Antoni. And ultimately, I think that they will get it done, that he will end up back with Houston, which honestly I think makes Indiana look quite stupid. I'm not going to get really deep into Indiana right now. I just want to say I think their whole thing was kind of dumb. Apparently there were rumors that before this season even started that the Pacers were really going to go hard after Mike D'Antoni if he becomes available. So what you're telling me is you're giving your current head coach no chance at all for a coach that isn't even available at the moment, and you don't know if he's going to be available. This is a coach that you have to wait to see if he's going to be available. That makes zero sense. It just doesn't make a lick of sense to me when you're really going to kind of shoot down your own head coach and the job that he's trying to do, especially with, not having Oladipo for most of the season, not having Sabonis in the restart, and having TJ Warren come alive and everyone call him like Michael Jordan, the bubble Jordan, and really make some noise. You still lose in the first round. I get it. But he really hasn't had much to work with. Let's be honest. The guy has had, like, what? A few years, and he's only had Oladipo as his best player. And now he has Oladipo and Sabonis, but Oladipo has been hurt. So you're supposed to be winning championships with those two as your best players on your team. And if you're calling it a big three with TJ Warren as the third, I wouldn't expect anybody to be winning championships with that team, let alone Nate McMillan. And you're firing him just in case Mike D'Antoni becomes available. Just in case. Not because he's ready right now and you can go try and hire him. Just in case he comes available. That just doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense at all. I really can't tell you what to make of that. Right now on Bovada Sportsbook, they have a little pause in their betting or odds available, but I'm pretty sure you'll probably be able to bet on these coaching searches. And if I had to guess, I think that Mike D'Antoni probably wouldn't even be the front runner to bet on to get the Indiana job. Because first off, other teams are going to look at him as well. If he becomes available, it's not like the Pacers are going to be the only ones looking at him. It's already rumored that a couple other teams are looking at him if he should be available. One of them being the Pelicans, which would make a little bit of sense with the kind of players and the kind of style you could run with that team. But it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And that's going to be the theme for that. Now, let's get into the Sixers. Brett Brown fired. A whole lot of Sixers fans, a whole lot of people, all have been talking about that he should have been fired a long, long time ago. Do I agree with that? No, I don't agree with the fact that he should have been fired a long time ago. I think that he definitely deserved the shot to try and get this team to a championship after withstanding so many years of tanking and going through those horrid Sixers teams, and even getting like a bunch of G Leaguers up to 20 wins. I mean, you have teams now that have like a surefire star that can't even get to 20. In, like when the Hawks weren't even up to 20 before. Not talking this season, but like, the Knicks with RJ Barrett and stuff like that. Like, a lot of these teams, when they just have their young players and they have like a surefire rookie that's going to be something and then nothing else, don't make it to 20 wins. He did a good job with that. I mean, he got players to play for him even though they knew every night they were probably going to lose. Was he doing a good job now, though? That is where it can be debated because his X's and O's were never really that strong. The accountability, as we hear all these stories from like Jimmy Butler, JJ Redick, from the leaks that are happening to like Woj and Shams, you heard a lot about the fact that there was no accountability in the locker room. A lot of players needed to be checked, and it just wasn't happening, and it was just everyone was just running amok. That obviously is an issue. And when you're a team competing for a championship, you have younger players that are going to be your two focal points in Simmons and Embiid. Accountability is something that's very, very big. Now, when you have somebody like, say, LeBron, Durant, Steph, Harden, like those guys that are established already, their superstar status, a lot of them are going to be the ones that hold others accountable, and they will hold themselves accountable because they've been there, done that. Embiid and Simmons are not the two guys to do that. I think we all have noticed that by now. Some of the rumored candidates and targets for the Sixers are Tyronn Lue, Jay Wright, their own assistant, forgive me if I don't pronounce his name right, but Ime Udoka, former Kings coach Dave Yerger, Bucks assistant Darvin Ham, and Warriors assistant Mike Brown. Now, let me preface this by saying, since the Sixers got rid of Brett Brown, you should get rid of the entire front office and ownership. I'm dead up. You should get rid of the entire thing except, I mean, you really should get rid of some of the players too, but you should get rid of just blow it up from head to toe. Because the owners had good ideas coming into it, you know, really being bold, hiring a guy like Sam Hinkie who has this bold idea, and they're really trying new and different things. And then the team gets to the exact point that Hinkie was trying to avoid this whole time with the process. The whole point of the process was to not get to this point in time where you give below star level players ginormous contracts so that your team is good enough to make the playoffs, but not good enough to win a championship and not bad enough to get a decent pick in the draft to help you win a championship. That was the whole point of all of this. But then you force out Sam Hinkie. Colangelo comes in. Made one or two okay moves, a lot of bad moves. Ultimately, the worst move in retrospect, the Markelle Fultz trade. Then you find out the guy has burner accounts. Fire him. Keep the whole rest of his staff and hire a former player to then become GM for the first time with no GM experience. I think they had him GM one season for the Delaware Bluecoats maybe, which that does 1 year, especially 1 year, does not translate to the NBA. Then they sign Horford and Tobias Harris to ginormous contracts, and here you are, making the playoffs, getting swept in the first round. Sure, they didn't have Ben Simmons. If you added Ben Simmons, they probably would have lost in 5 or 6. Let's be real. The head coach is not the only issue with Philadelphia. I feel like that is very well known, and if it's not very well known, more people need to do their research. I mean, honestly. So, that being said, the rumored candidates targets Tyronn Lue, Jay Wright, Ime Udoka, Dave Yerger, Darvin Ham, Mike Brown. I've heard a lot of Sixers fans and stuff talking about like Mark Jackson or Jeff Van Gundy, or I've even heard people say like maybe Tibbs, maybe Jason Kidd, or maybe even Mike D'Antoni if he becomes available, because if you remember, Mike D'Antoni was an assistant coach in Philadelphia right before Houston hired him. I don't like really any of these candidates, to be honest with you. I mean, I do like Jay Wright. However, if I was Jay Wright, ain't no way in hell I'm leaving Villanova. Why would I leave that situation? You have Villanova not fresh off, but like recently winning 2 national championships. They're becoming even bigger of a national spotlighted team getting big-time prospects every season, and they're always in the mix for one of the best teams in the nation. Why would I leave that to just get even more criticized for every move I make for the Sixers when I'm already beloved by a lot of Philly because I have made Villanova what it is? If I'm Jay Wright, why would I do that? He's still getting paid plenty of money at Villanova. Yeah, he might get paid more in the NBA. But for the money he's getting, and the fact that he's not getting criticized nearly what he would be as soon as he joins the Sixers, staying in Villanova. I don't like the prospect of Lou because, honestly, when I think of Lou's time coaching the Cavs when they won the finals, other than maybe like playing one guy here and there for a matchup, I can't really tell you that many X's and O's or that many strategic things he really did. When I think of that team, I think of the stuff that LeBron did or that Kyrie did to win the game for them. It doesn't take... I mean, you got David Blatt, who's not even coaching in the league right now. He got them to the finals. I wouldn't say Lou necessarily did that much better of a job to win them the finals. I would just say that Kyrie and LeBron were that much better. Well, also Kyrie was healthy. But Kyrie and LeBron were that much better because they were on a bigger mission to win the finals. So I don't really see that helping all that much for this team to win a championship. Now, Udoka being the Sixers assistant, I know he's solid. However, giving a guy his first NBA head coaching experience is risky. Don't get me wrong, very risky. I just don't know really enough about him, even though he is already on the Sixers as an assistant. I don't know enough about him to say whether or not I like the idea of him coaching. Dave Yerger, I do kind of like that because, I mean, you have endorsements from other star players that have played for him. But also there are also negatives from other players that have played for him. So he's kind of wishy-washy. Darvin Ham, also as the Bucks assistant, I mean, he's definitely been learning a lot underneath Budenholzer, and I mean the Bucks have been the number one seed in the East the past 2 seasons, and they've consistently been like one of the best regular season teams the last couple to few years. But again, I mean, they didn't have much playoff success, so I don't know if that hurts or helps Darvin Ham. And then there's the Warriors assistant Mike Brown. Not terrible, but also I feel like it's not great. I mean, you could look at someone like Kenny Atkinson, but I feel like Kenny Atkinson is I feel like he's an equivalent type of coach to Brett Brown in the fact that those are 2 guys you would love to have coaching your team during your rebuild seasons, but when it's time to win the championship, I just don't know if they're the guys you really want. A couple guys that I kind of like. So Nuggets assistant Wes Unseld Jr. I do like him. Personally, maybe it's bias. I don't know what it is. And again, it's very risky giving someone their first NBA head coaching experience when you're a team that wants to win a championship. However, you also, a lot of times, need to take some risks. I, personally, on the top of my list, would put Becky Hammon. I think Becky Hammon, especially learning underneath Popovich. Now, a lot of people also said the same about Brett Brown when he first came over because he was on San Antonio as the head of player development. And, I mean, again, a lot of people can say the same about him. But from Becky Hammon's playing background, from the things that I have seen when she has coached in Summer League, when she has coached in, they even had her, getting up and coaching during the scrimmages and some of the restart games in the bubble for Popovich. I think that all of it has been very positive. She's looked very good. She even won that Summer League championship, I believe. I would put her at the top of the list. I know San Antonio it seems like they're kind of grooming her to become their head coach once Popovich moves on. But if I'm the Sixers, why isn't she in the list? There's a lot of rumors about them making this extensive coaching search and doing all this to find the best fit coach. If you're actually doing that, you might as well list a whole lot more coaches than just these ones that are rumored. Obviously, they could have them in a list. I'm not saying they can't. But a lot of the times that leaks, or at least, there's something like, hey, they're thinking about this person. It doesn't have to be like, oh, their main target is this guy right here. I definitely think, need to look at her and give her an interview. At the very least. So for me, the top of my list would probably be something like, if I had to do a top 5, I'd probably say Becky Hammon, Wes Unseld Jr., then I would probably go Tyronn Lue. Then I would probably go the Sixers' current assistant, Udoka. And then for number 5, it's a little iffy there. I mean, they said, so Nate McMillan said he wasn't trying to pursue another head coaching job. I mean, I would also maybe take a look at Jeff Van Gundy if it's possible. He hasn't really said whether or not he does want to come back and coach. But I don't like Jason Kidd. I just don't. And I mean, if I was Greg Popovich and I was going to go somewhere other than San Antonio, I would go to Brooklyn too. So, I mean, that's not a hard decision when it comes up to that. But I don't know. I mean, number 5 in the top 5 is hard because a lot of these just don't look like great. Maybe I would put Dave Yerger there as number 5. But I just don't have the faith in the Sixers to find the right person for the job. Maybe that's due to experience, because a lot of the coaches that I can think of off the top of my head for the Sixers are very average. I mean, like Brett Brown, Doug Collins, Jim O'Brien, Eddie Jordan. I mean, a lot of them in my lifetime have been very average coaches that really don't get you past like the conference finals or even the second round. So I just don't have faith in them. And it's that you have the Sixers going after a head coach and not doing anything else with the front office. It just doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, let's move on. As I said, Brooklyn looking for a coach. Their rumored candidates or targets, they have Jacques Vaughn is actually one of their rumored candidates. So he might be able to get the job that he's already working. But there are also the other rumors are Popovich, like I said, Tyrone Lue, Jason Kidd, Jeff Van Gundy, Mark Jackson, and again, Sixers assistant, Ime Udoka. If I'm the Nets, obviously Popovich is your number one if he becomes available. Obviously. Like, that's no doubt about it. They are a team that I think Tyrone Lue would fit with. Because, like I said, we've only seen him with a team like with LeBron and Kyrie. This team is going to have Kyrie and Kevin Durant. He already coached Kyrie once. He can coach Kyrie again. And now instead of LeBron, you get Kevin Durant. I mean, it's a pretty easy no-brainer if you decide to coach there. Well, I mean, if you decide to get a head coaching job somewhere. Will it get you longevity, I think, is the big question for Lue. For Lue, I think it depends also if does he just want to get a championship within the next couple seasons and then be done coaching, or does he want to be coaching for a long time? Because I think going with another team like the Sixers or the Pelicans or one of those, you have a higher possibility of being a coach for longer because those teams are younger. You'll probably get more years out of it. Whereas the Nets, their window is right now and like a year or two from now. Because you don't know what's going to happen with Kevin Durant and his contract. And he's in his 30s. I think he's 30 already, if I'm not mistaken. So you just don't know. You don't know what. There's a lot of things that could happen there. With the Sixers and the Pelicans, they have their younger players locked down for at least the next few years. And if you do a good enough job, they'll probably want to stay for longer. So I think it only makes sense that way. And it's crazy to me because, like, in the beginning of the year on Bovada, the Sixers had one of the best odds to win the NBA Finals. Even with a team that a lot of people didn't think was built for today's NBA. Also, if you ask me, that's also a team like with Brooklyn in the beginning of the year, even without Kevin Durant, they were also a team that a lot of people had as favorites. In the beginning of the year, I saw them near the high ends of the odds on Bovada as well. So it's iffy. Just seeing everything that has played out, and now the coaching searches are happening. I think it's going to be interesting to see where they all fall come, not the exact start of next season, but by like preseason and seeing where they go with these coaching searches. But anyway, let's touch on real quick the playoffs. We saw the Nets versus the Raptors. Really, there's not all that much to comment on this because the Raptors took care of business as they should have. On Basketball Reference, there are 4 factors they have for the game are effective field goal percentage, turnover percentage, offensive rebound percentage, and free throw per field goal attempt. Toronto led all 4 of those. Their effective field goal percentage as a team was 59.2, and their turnover percentage was only 9.6. They had an offensive rating of 122.7, and they were putting up 126 points a game. I mean, in Game 4, they put up 150 points, and that's with Karis LeVert being the leading scorer from Brooklyn with 35. That's just ridiculous. Van Vliet put up 21 and 7 a game. Pascal put up 20 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists a game. Ibaka put up 19 and 10. Norman Powell put up 17. Lowry only put up 12, 7, and 5. I mean, Lowry wasn't even one of the ones that was one of the best people on the team in that series, and they blew them out like that. Which, again, still expected. But even Pascal Siakam shot 41.7% from the floor and 28.6% from three. But you have Van Vliet. I mean, if you had to name an MVP of this series, Van Vliet by far. 52.7% from the floor, 55.9% from three. That's outrageous if you ask me. And then, as I said, 21 points, 4 rebounds, actually 7.8 assists, so technically 8 assists, 1.3 steals a game. And only turned the ball over 5 times in those 4 games. I mean, almost had a little bit higher than a 6-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. That man is balling. Let's be honest. For the Brooklyn side, really not all that much to talk about. Karis LeVert did all right. I mean, he put up 26 and 9.5. The raw stat line there is good, but when it comes to shooting percentages, he only shot 37% from the floor, but 42.9 from three. One person that impressed for most of the restart was Luwawu Cabarrot. Excuse me. However, in this series, not so much. While he put up 16 points a game, he also shot 33.9 and 33.3, respectively, from the field and from three. That's pretty bad. And then the rest of them, I mean, the other only notable one I think would be Joe Harris, but he only played 2 of the 4 games. He put up 16 and 10 in those 2 games, shooting 52% and 58% respectively, which, I mean, him and LeVert have been the 2 consistently best players for Brooklyn during this whole restart. So it all just makes sense. I would be curious to see, whenever Bovada gets some of the odds back up, to see what Toronto's odds are now to win the championship, because I think they should be pretty high. So let me see. The other series obviously being Boston and Philly. Boston gets the sweep. Now, it's interesting because in the 4 factors here on Basketball Reference, it went 2-2. Boston was the better team in terms of effective field goal and turnover percentage, but Philly was better in offensive rebound and free throw per field goal attempts, which makes sense because Joel Embiid goes to the line a lot. But look at this. Boston's top 3, their big 3, Jason Tatum, Kemba Walker, Jaylen Brown, averaged 27 points, 24.3, and 21.5 per game respectively. That's over 60 points a game coming from just those 3 guys. And earlier in that series, Kemba Walker even said that has been the most space he has ever seen when talking about playing against Philly's defense. You're giving one of the best scoring point guards in the league the most space he's ever seen? Well, you're probably going to lose. You're probably going to lose. Let's be real here. Like, that's just ridiculous, dog. Anyway, rest of the supporting cast all did well. Gordon Hayward got hurt in that series and didn't play after the first game. Hopefully he can give it a go at some point. We don't know. Looking at the Sixers, you had Embiid, who averaged 30 points, 12 rebounds, 1 assist, 1.5 steal, 1.3 blocks a game. Now that 1 assist is a little sad considering the fact that they double teamed him a lot, and meaning you had at least one teammate open every time. That's a little bad. He shot 45.9% from the floor, 25% from 3. He attempted 59 free throws for those 4 games, though, so that's pretty huge. But on top of that, he turned the ball over 15 times. Now, we talked about Van Vliet turning it over 5 times in 4 games. Embiid decided to triple that and go 15 times in 4 games. You're not going to win that way. Josh Richardson, 16 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. Tobias, only 15 points a game as the number 2 guy. He shot 38.3% from the floor and 13% from 3. Shake Milton, 14 points, only 2 assists. Alec Burks, actually not, he didn't shoot well, but gave them a little bit of energy here and there, I guess. Al Horford, 7.7 rebounds, 2 assists, 48% from the floor, 0% from 3, 57% from the free throw line. Raul Neto, he only played 2 games. Matisse, 1.1 rebound a game. Matisse, was pretty much invisible the entire time. Korkmaz only played 40 minutes. Again, pretty much invisible the entire time. He also never hit a 3. So the supporting guys that during the regular season you were getting a little bit of production from, you're really getting nothing. You don't have Ben Simmons. Embiid's turning the ball over all over the place. The two of the guys that have the highest paying contracts only combining for, 22 points a game? Tobias and Al Horford, who are getting way more money than Jaylen Brown and, if you combine them, way more money than Jaylen Brown, probably way more than Jason Tatum, and even way more than Kemba Walker, only combined averaged more than just Jaylen Brown by 0.5 point. Kemba Walker outscored both of them. Jason Tatum outscored both of them combined. And you're locked up in those contracts for quite a while. I don't know what to tell you, but all I know is it ain't good. So, moving on, the second round of playoffs, whenever that resumes, the Celtics will be taking on the Raptors. I think that's going to be a very entertaining series. Next week, we will get in on more of the series from all of the other, from the Western Conference and the other teams and stuff like that. But we just had too much to talk about this week. So that is it for us. Thank you guys for listening to another episode of the Atlantic Files. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We are on Spotify. We're on Google Podcasts. We're on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud. Please subscribe. Please leave a review. It helps us out greatly. And also, we are now on YouTube. So make sure you check out the Basketball Society YouTube channel. Also, check out basketballsocietyonline.com and the Underdog Sports Podcast Network. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll catch you guys next week. Peace.